you're looking at the Unit 3, Module 2, Vertical Angles Proof. So it's an introduction to proofs with vertical angles theorem. So just what exactly will we be using? So a couple vocabulary words that you need to understand is what is a postulate. A postulate is a rule or statement that is accepted as true without proof. So the postulate is something that is we just know that it's true. A theorem is a statement or conjecture that can be proven. So postulates and theorems are what we will use to prove that things are true or false. Now we use the word conjecture, and in case you're confused about that, a conjecture is an educated guess based on known information. This can also be called a hypothesis, like in your science classes. A hypothesis or conjecture is an educated guess based on known information. So what we're going to be using is we'll be using these three things in proofs to prove things. A proof is a logical argument in which each statement you make is supported by a statement that is accepted as true. And what we've already talked about we'll be using is the transitive property. We should be familiar with this. After our last activity, it says if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A equals C. So let's look at some of the theorems that we're going to be proving. So the first one is our vertical angles theorem. So if two angles are vertical angles, then they are congruent. So we know we already have talked about vertical angles being congruent. Well, this is the theorem that says they are congruent. Another one is the linear pair postulate. If two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. So remember, these two angles together would be supplementary. So take a second and turn the page. So still looking at we're going to use what we just talked about to prove that our vertical angles theorem. We're going to prove the vertical angles theorem. We have to prove it first before we can use it later on. So what we're doing, if you look, our statements in a two-column proof will be on the left-hand side, and our reasons will be on the right-hand side. So what we'll do is we'll say one thing, and then we have to say a reason that supports it. So if we look, our first statement is always the given up at the top. See, they say angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. So they're saying that angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. Well, what's our reason? Well, they told us that. It's our given. This will always go in your top row. So then they say, to prove that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, first they tell us angle 1 is a vertical angle to angle 3. That's our given. So then how do we get to the proof part? Well, we would say angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. Well, how do we know that they're supplementary? Well, they're a linear pair. So based on the linear pair postulate, we know that they're supplementary. So if we know that 1 and 2 are supplementary, then we also know that angle 2 and angle 3 are supplementary. And I'm going to shorten it. I'm just going to put SUPP. How do we know 2 and 3 are supplementary? Well, we also know that because of our linear pair postulate. So then we can say because 1 and 2 are supplementary, we can say 1 and 2 together add up to 180 degrees. This is because of the definition of supplementary. As you can see, it's a fill in the blank to help us out. So we know angle 1 and 2 are supplementary, so that means angle 1 and 2 add up to 180 degrees. So what do you think that next part is going to be? If we know 2 and 3 are supplementary, then we also know that angle 2 plus angle 3 is going to be equal to 180 degrees based off the definition of supplementary. Once we say that, now we can say angle 1 and 2 is equal to angle 2 and 3 based off of the transitive property. So remember, go back and make sure we're still aware of what we're trying to prove. We're still trying to get to that angle 1 is equal to angle 3. Well, look, we're almost there. What do we need to do? If we're told the next step is our subtraction property, we need to subtract out angle 2 from both sides. So now we have that angle 1 is equal to angle 3 because of the subtraction property. And based on that, if you notice, that's the congruent symbol. Now we know that they are congruent because of the definition of congruence. This one is kind of long, so don't think of it as being, or it is a little difficult. They'll get a little easier. What I want you to do now is continue on and do the alternate exterior angles proof by yourself. Keep in mind, it's a little shorter and a little easier, the ones you have to do on your own.